Hello everybody, it is your boy NCO7 here, and welcome back to a new and special episode of Forgotten Quarter. As today, we're going to be looking at a series that has fallen into obscurity for the most part and hasn't seen a game in like 2 decades, so yeah, perfect for this segment. That series being the Kururin series, being made by Aiding and published by Nintendo. You may have seen the first game before on some storefronts, like the Wii U eShop and the Switch Online for GBA, though likely know nothing about it. But since there's not much to say about all 3 games in the series, I figured I'd cover all of the games in this one episode. Now don't take that as me saying that this video will be very long, as it'll probably be about as long as my other videos. Also, the structure of this video will be different, as I won't be having the traditional categories as their own sections since I'm going to be covering 3 games, so keep that in mind. And I'll be mostly focusing on what was added to the last 2 games when I talk about them. Hopefully you guys don't mind it. I try to make it look as good as I can, but enough of this. Let's begin this segment. Starting with the first game, released in 2001 on the GBA, Kururin would start this series of flying puzzle games. So, if you've never played these games or seen them before, the main gameplay is guiding the rotating rectangle, which is actually you're playing the Kururin, through the level without touching any walls or obstacles. You can speed up the plane with the A and B buttons, you can change how fast the blade rotates with the L and R button. Some levels have collectibles to find on harder paths, usually either a color option for your plane or one of your brothers, which you're trying to save, and that's pretty much it for the gameplay as a whole. Overall, the gameplay is really simple, but I will say, it gets hard. This series reminds me a lot of Sega's Super Monkey Ball series, as both series have games that on the surface seem very easy due to how simple they are to control, but both have incredibly high skill ceilings, so you really do have to play well to progress. Though there is an easy mode that makes things a bit easier, you still do need to be precise, and especially later in the game. And I gotta say, for a GBA game in 2001, it's really good. While the game itself isn't that long, it's all about trying to get record times for the levels, and going for that can be a lot of fun. Another thing I really like about this game is its visuals, as it's just a happy looking game. You look at it and it gives you hope that you can beat the level. The music also really fits with the visuals and is also really good and catchy, despite the GBA's limitations. There's still some really good bops, which I'm playing in the background right now. Overall, I think this game is really good. Sure, there's not an awful lot to the game, but it's a lot of fun. It's a very cute, charming game, and I think is worth playing. While the game did release in Japan and Europe, North America wouldn't see the game until the Wii U Virtual Console, where it would finally be released, and later on the Switch Online expansion pack in 2023. And I would heavily recommend checking it out, as it can be a lot of fun. Though unfortunately, this would be the only game released outside of Japan, so let's see what the rest of the world didn't get to play. Released in 2002, once again for the GBA, Kururin Paradise would remain in Japan only. Although there were rumors that it would see an international release, this never happened. While this game at first glance looks identical to that of the first game, as the gameplay is pretty much the same, there are a lot of new additions to Paradise, like the levels being a lot longer and even having branching paths due to the keys. You see, within the levels you can find keys that can open up alternate paths in other levels to access completely new levels, so there is more of a reason to return to previous levels rather than just trying to get the best record. The game is also a lot faster, making it more difficult than the first game, and one big thing this game added were minigames. See, this game has boss fights, but not in the traditional sense. Basically, you have a minigame you have to complete to win, and when you win, you rescue one of your brothers. It's basically the same setup as that of the first game, and I gotta be honest, these minigames are complete poop. While some of them aren't too bad, some of them are needlessly irritating and are not fun when trying to beat the game. At least the visuals are still good, though in my opinion not as good as the first game. Same thing with the music. While it is good, it just kinda blends in with the background. Honestly, while I think Paradise is decent, I honestly think it's the worst out of the trilogy. The inclusion of multiple paths and keys to collect to open up levels is a brilliant idea, but I feel like the mini games just suck, and everything else, while good, it just doesn't feel as good as the first game. I'd just rather replay the original more than anything else, instead of this game. But it's still worth playing. If you are gonna play these games, I think it's still worth trying out, but I would say that I would prefer you try the first game first over this one, but hey, it's your choice at the end of the day. But we've only got one more game to cover, Kururin Squash. Being released in 2004 on the GameCube in, once again, Japan only, and being the only home console Kururin game, let alone the final game in the series, more on that in a minute, Squash was definitely the best way to end the series. This game continues the same formula as the previous games, but now with some new changes. Rather than having a lot of mini-games and branching paths, Squash is very similar to that of the first game, as all the levels are pretty much there's no real alternate paths or anything like that. Though this time, the brand new addition is the power-ups you use, which can change up the gameplay. These can range from fists that can shoot out to defeat enemies in the level. Also, yeah, enemies on the map is actually a first in this game. Or a blowtorch to shoot flames out. It can get pretty wild, but it's all good and fun. The power-ups can be kind of annoying at times, like the blowtorch for the ice levels, as those can honestly be a real pain, but luckily not every level has these, and some are more simple and are basically the same as that of the first game, which is nice. One big thing that got improved were the graphics, and man are they charming. While yes, the models in the background can look very Nintendo 64-like, I honestly think it adds charm to the game, because it's not like this game's trying to be super futuristic or anything like that. It's part of the style, and the sprite work is also really good. I like how in the cutscenes, they kind of play out like a puppet show with all the characters being held by strings. I think it's just really cute. Also, since this is on the GameCube, the performance of the game is really good, and even though I was playing it emulated, it ran buttery smooth at 60 frames, and I can't imagine it's that much worse for the playing it on original hardware, making the control feel honestly the best in the series. The music is pretty good as well, though I still think the first game did it the best, and there is quite a bit of content, including multiplayer modes that I wish I could understand, but I don't know Japanese, so it's kind of a barrier. As for the story mode itself, it's basically about as long as that of the previous two games, so there's that. I think this game overall is the best of the series. While I think the power-ups can be a bit annoying at times, the control, visuals, and overall gameplay are so good, I feel like this was the peak of the series. Unfortunately though, this would be where the series would end. Aside from the Super Smash Bros. Series, as well as a few re-releases of the original game on modern consoles, like I mentioned twice before, this series would end off. But hey, at least they ended it on a bang, right? I'm not exactly sure how to open this final section, other than I think though overall, this series is one of Nintendo's most underrated. And yeah, it is for good reason, as 2 of the 3 games only released in Japan and the other one didn't get very popular either, but I still love these games. If I were to rank the games from worst to best, Paradise would be at the bottom, Kuru, the first game, would be in the middle, and Squash would be at the top, though I do love all these games to an extent, and even then, Squash and the first game are pretty close. Now, as to why I feel the series was forgotten, I feel it was likely for a few reasons. It may have been that the series was a bit too niche, which may have made Nintendo not put a lot into advertising the games, so much so that 2 of the games would never be localized, as well as never reaching countries like the US. I feel that this series would be would be so good to bring back, especially like imagine if they did a Crash Insane Trilogy remake to the series, each game getting remade to play and look beautiful in the modern age, or even a new game as a digital eShop game for $15 would be so cool. Whether that'll happen or not is up to debate. It probably won't happen, but at the very least, these games are good. Now, if only we could get the last 2 games released outside Japan, would everyone finally be able to have the chance to play them? Unless you emulate it like I did, because that works. If you do want to play these games, I would strongly recommend emulating them, as it just makes it easier to play these games rather than going to eBay to get them. Well, you don't really need to know a lot of Japanese to get through these games. Sometimes it can be a bit confusing, and even then, if you're playing these on original hardware, you gotta get all that stuff, and just emulate them. It makes it easier than going to eBay. On one final note, and to end off this review, the Kururin series is probably one of Nintendo's most underrated series, and it is a mighty shame it not only has so few and limited releases, but also that it barely gets recognition from anyone anymore. But hopefully this video helps out. Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys have played these games at all. You more than likely haven't. But I strongly recommend checking them out. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing if you want to see more Forgotten Corner episodes. And share this video with people so that way more people can be aware of the series, because I think that'd be very nice. If you do that, thank you. And if you watch the video to this point, thank you. But with that all being said, this is NCSO7 signing off. Peace out and have a good day.